All right, let's do this. Today, we're going to talk about grading the New York Islanders during the pause. Now, before we get started, I just want to ask you to please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, which will alert you when my next video comes out, which will be about the New Jersey Devils. Now, the last team I graded was the New York Rangers there. I'll throw up a few links to some other clubs that I've done already. Obviously, I'm shooting these videos in reverse alphabetical order. Now, the Islanders, man. Don't play the fool, boy. My mother's West Indian, believe it or not. Now, the New York Islanders probably have a smaller window to win it all than most people might think, at least those outside of New York, because Islander fans know what the issue with this team and how some of their key players are a little bit up there when it comes to age. Now, last season, before it started, they went out and got a coach fresh off a Stanley Cup in Barry Trotz, and he just completely turned the team around in terms of goals against, being one of the worst teams in the league to the best. They also had Robin Leonard playing tandem in net for 1 year with Greiss. They were one of the best in the league. But they did lose John Tavares, and they lost some offense, obviously, with that. Now, when it comes to how they've done so far this season, October all the way through December, they were terrific. There's no other way around it, really. And then January, somewhere in there, came along, and they just started to take a dive. Mind you, they did run into some, major injuries, but those really didn't happen until, around February 11th. So there's a little bit of space there that says, hey, what up? Now, when it comes to the record, they did lose their last two games before the pause. In overtime, they were 2-4-4 in their last 10. They sit in the Metro. They've got 80 points. They're one spot out of a last wild card spot, just 1 point behind the Columbus Blue Jackets, whom they happen to have 2 games on hand on, by the way. So they're in charge of their own destiny here. Maybe the team who needed this break the most was the Islanders. So let's jump into, let's talk about some of the trades that they made, that Lou Lamoriello, who also is in his second season with the Islanders right now, which I thought was funny that in 2019, his first year, he didn't make any trades, none. The team didn't make nada, zero. Now, some of the more notable ones this season were, of course, Gabrielle Pageau, who they acquired at the trade deadline from Ottawa for a first, second, and third. Some thought that was a bit pricey. Third is conditional if they win the Stanley Cup, by the way. And then, of course, because Pelech went down, their left shot defenseman, who eats up a lot of minutes, they went out and got veteran defenseman Andy Green to fill in on that left side, more of an adept role. Obviously, the guy's like 37 years old in his last probably year of the league. We'll see. Now, in terms of injuries, let's get back to that. Right now, there's only 2 players who still linger on the IR, and that's Cizikas, their fourth-line center. Happens to be one of the best fourth lines, arguably, in the league. He went out with a lower body injury on February 11th. He sort of started this whole injury parade for them. Initially, they said he'd only be out 3-4 weeks, but I don't know. Will he be back after the pause, the regular season playoffs? We'll see. He leads the team with a +12, by the way, and was on the first penalty kill unit. Then there's Pelech, their left shot defenseman, who ate up the second most minutes on the team with 21.08. He's a +4, only had 9 points, but he was also on that first penalty kill unit. So you lose 2 guys off your first penalty kill unit. That's a problem. Yeah. So let's stop right now and talk about some stats that I'm going to throw at your face. Starting with the special teams. The power play, 24th in the league. They really have no offensive defenseman, do they? Especially someone who can properly quarterback that power play. More on that later. Their penalty kill is 15th. Has really slid, especially because of those injuries to the players I just mentioned. Wins, they're 20th in the league, tied with 4 other teams. Points, they're 14th. Goals for, they're 24th. More on that later. Goals against, they're 6th. Still very respectable. Shots against per game, they sit 15th in the league, right in the middle there. at about 31.2 shots allowed per game. Face-off win percentage, they're 18th. They're about 49.9% at the circle. And of course, Matthew Barzal leads the team in points with 60, 19 of those goals. He's a +5. Also leads the forwards in ice time at 20.03. He also just happens to be 40th in the NHL on the point list. Now, let's talk about some the players, starting with the goaltenders. Starting with Var Lamoff, who they acquired. They signed to a 4-year contract, I want to say, worth $5 million a year. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Some thought might be a little pricey at the time, especially at his age. He just turned 32 in April. He had a decent year, though. 45 games. He had a 19-14 save percentage. His last year with the Avalanche, in 49 games, he had a 909. The year before that, in 51 games, he had a 920. So he's obviously declining somewhat, but playing for a more defensive team. It's working out, right? The other guy who he platoons with, Thomas Greiss, who will be a UFA at the end of the season, whenever that happens, in 31 games, he's got a 913 save percentage. Kind of showing that last year wasn't necessarily a bluff, because in 43 games in his first year under Trotz, he had a 927 save percentage. Yep. So I have a feeling he'll definitely walk at the end of the season. I do not think they'll resign him. Why? Because their up-and-coming goaltender, their number one prospect right now, Ilya Sorkin. Sorokin? Yeah, I'll stick with that. He's done his contract in the KHL, and he's got some spectacular numbers. Wow. A quick beat on him here. In his last 5 seasons in the KHL, he's had between a 929 and 953 save percentage, playing between 28 to 40 games a season. 28 only in his first year with CSK Moscow. Now, this season, he had a 935 save percentage in 40 games. The parade of the Russian Renaissance goaltender continues. Of course, Shesterkin being on the Rangers and Samsonov being part of the Washington Capitals. All in the Metro Division is going to be the best one in the league. It's going to be killer for anyone else. It's going to be hard to make the playoffs. A lot of parity. In any case, let's talk about the defensemen now. Some quick points to point out. Pulock leads them, their top right shot defenseman, with 35 points. He's a +8, leads the team in minutes, 22-24. He's on the second power play and on the second penalty kill unit. Taves has 28 points, second on the team in defense. He's got a +1. Excuse me. It's the water. Or maybe it was the beer. Maybe it was both. Who knows? He's got 20-31 in ice time, and he's on their first power play. He's their quarterback. He's got 28 points. This kid is he's not a kid anymore. He's 20. He just turned 26 years old. They need a true number one offensive defenseman, and I'm not sure that's going to be so easy to get right now. If Lou Lamoriello happens to be able to pull this rabbit out of a hat, we'll see. We shall see. Now moving on, Leddy is third on the defense with points with 21. He's a -1. His average ice time is 21:07, and he's on the second power play, second penalty kill unit. And Boychuk, of course, who suffered that really scary injury with that skate to the eye, cutting his eyelid, had like 90 stitches or something crazy like that. He should be ready to go. He's not on the IR list anymore. Now, then there's Noah Dobson, who I just wanted to touch on ever so briefly, and he's their up-and-coming defenseman. He's a right shot. He's 20 years old. He'll be 21 in January. In 34 games, he's had 1 goal, 7 points, and is a -1. Now, he came straight from the CHL, the juniors. His last year in junior in 40, I gotta do some math here. 56 games. He had 15 goals and 40 252 points. Yeah, unbelievable. And because he was traded halfway through the season, literally right at the halfway point, and he was a plus 40 with his last team, a minus 30 with his earlier team. This kid needed to go. Right now, he's playing like barely 10 minutes a game. He's only played 34 games so far this season. Boychuk was hurt. He got that opportunity. Really, he should be going to the AHL. But because the rule between the CHL and NHL exists that no one under 20 can go to the AHL, they either have to go stick with the NHL team or go back to the CHL. This is what happens. He sits for a bunch of games, doesn't play many minutes, and I just think the rule is dumb. I know I'm opening up a can of worms here, and I know why. I understand the CHL's reason behind this, because they want some of those stars to come back so they can help put bums in the seats. But really, when the guy is overperforming in the juniors, he needs to play against men, which is why they re-signed that deal with the CHL just recently for one more year, thank God, but they didn't make any changes. Hopefully they'll bring that down to at least 19 years old, and then add in my opinion, a special exemption status to those players who are scoring way over a point per game, like Noah Dobson as a defenseman. He should be eating like 22 plus minutes a game on the first pairing in the AHL. Developing his game against men in a much faster atmosphere, which isn't the NHL. Anyway, I'll stop my tirade right there, and let's talk about forwards. Some quick things to point out here. Now, for their top 5 forwards, not named Matthew Barzal, are 28 and up. And this is the thing where I say their cup window is shorter than most people might think right now. Brock Nelson is 28 years old, and he's second on the team with 54 points. Anders Lee is 29 years old. He's third on the team with 43 points. Josh Bailey is also third with 43 points. He's 30 years old. And then there's Jordan Eberle, who's 29 on fifth on the team with 44 points. They take up most of those first 2 lines. They're getting older. Their window is getting smaller. It's time to do something is now. And aren't they just really missing a sniper on that left side, especially? Beauvillier is young, I know, and he has a little bit of a higher ceiling, I would think. Now, how old is he right now? He's 22. He'll be 23 in June, though. And in 68 games, he's got 18 goals, 39 points, but a minus 11. So, that's not bad at all, but they need another player like that, maybe even better, because, throwing Ladd in there, they're kind of anchored with that contract too, and he's not really producing anything much at all. Maybe when Cizikas comes back, that'll bump Brassard up to the third line winger spot beside Pageau, and then, thus bumping Beauvillier to second line duties. And yeah, I know they have, Wallstrom and Bellows in the minors right now. They're potential fill-ins, but not till next year. And there's no guarantee there with those 2 players. A lot of them have been blowing their stats out of the water in the AHL or anything. So maybe there's a trade to be made here, Lou. The Leafs have got a lot of high-scoring wingers, a lot of depth there. I know, it'll never happen. A little bit of a grudge thing there for some reason. I don't know why. In any case, I think that's it. That's all. How would I grade this team? I got to give them a C+ because they sort of teetered off at the end there, and that was before a lot of the injuries started to occur. Maybe a B. If I was nicer, I'd give them a B-. New York Islander fans especially, I would love to hear what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. How would you grade them? And that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for joining me today. Sorry this is such a long video. And the subscribers continue to trickle in. Thank you so much for that. Speaking of which, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And hey, in this crazy world we're living in right now, please stay safe out there. And if you can, stay inside. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.